Dr. Chase Faldmo, it's such a pleasure to meet you. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
So today we're going to talk about, what are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about energy. We're going to talk about frequencies. We're going to talk about your book a little bit, hopefully. So why don't you just get started and tell us a little bit about what you do and the types of patients that you work with?
Awesome. So to get an understand of why I do this, you got to know my story and background. So I was a healthy 16-year-old kid, athlete, did football, basketball. Coaches told me I could play in college. So very healthy, but I had something called a hydrocele surgery. And after my hydrocele surgery, the doctors gave me painkillers and anti-inflammatories, and that burned large ulcers in my stomach. So to try to correct that, they gave me more meds. To make a long story short, I lost 50 pounds. I'd eat my food. I couldn't digest it. I went to all the best doctors across the country on paper, and none of them could help me. We even called the Mayo Clinic, and they said, "You've been to the doctors that trained us. Good luck. There's nothing we can do." So I heard about someone named Dr. Jerry Tennant. And when I heard about Dr. Tennant, a couple days before I saw him, my heart rate was only 36 beats a minute, and my blood pressure was 80/40.
Wow.
So it was a miracle I was alive. So I saw Dr. Tennant. He introduced me to the principles of frequency and voltage, and I used his principles, and within a year, I was better after being sick and almost dying for 2 years.
Wow.
So one of the things that made me sick and was a contributing factor to my illness was mercury toxicity. I was tested for 13 C's of mercury poisoning.
Wow.
Which is a lot. And, I to this day, I don't know exactly where it came from. I got suspicions. But when you realize that toxins play a big role in people's lives, it gives you a big passion for it. So, yeah, I ended up going to school. I got my doctorate in chiropractic, and I work alongside Dr. Tennant, as well as I'm trying to teach people how to be better themselves as well. So that's my big passion with toxins. So when it comes to toxins, every toxin has its own frequency it runs under. You see this in all toxins. And when I say toxins, I put toxins under several categories. There's microbial toxins like viruses and bacteria, molds and fungus. There's airborne toxins like allergens. And there's also chemical and heavy metal toxins like pesticides, insecticides, or aluminum, mercury, cadmium, you name it. And a toxin is anything foreign to the body that'll destroy a cell faster than you can make it. So every toxin in this world has its own frequency it runs under. Now, you see this for microbial toxins. They actually did a research study, and they found E. coli bacteria communicate via AM/FM radio waves.
Really?
So, yep, that was a study done at Harvard. And so they're using frequency against us, but that's also their weakness. Now, airborne toxins such as allergens, they act like a frequency to us because they use hydrogen bonding, and hydrogen bonding is actually a physics more, I believe, than the chemistry. That's why when you go outside in the springtime and you have all these sticky pollens on your car, that is hydrogen bonding. That's what's keeping it sticky, and that's why it gets sticky inside of us, especially our sinuses. Now, heavy metal chemical toxins, those can act one of two ways. Some of them will act like a magnet to our cell wall. That's the case with aluminum. Other toxins, such as mercury, actually repel in nature. Because what happens is mercury initially has a charge when it's by itself, and then chlorine binds to it. And when chlorine binds to it, it takes away its charge, and then it gets inside of our cell. And once it's inside our cell, chlorine leaves, and then mercury is by itself. And when mercury is by itself, it repels, and that's why it cannot leave the cell, because of its charge. So when you see this big picture and you realize, okay, everything's got a charge to it, you can use that against these toxins. So there's this principle in physics called destructive interference. And so what that is if you have a wave, if you take that wave and you flip its polarity, you create the reverse wave, and you applied the reverse wave to that wave, then it cancels out.
They flatten out, right? Exactly. They cancel each other.
You got it. So right. This is one of the principles they use in those noise canceling headphones. A noise comes in, You put the reverse frequency and it cancels it out. That way you don't hear it.
I love my noise canceling headphones on the plane.
Oh, aren't they nice? I've never used them, but I hear they're amazing.
They really are.
So once you understand these principles, you can eliminate any toxin from the body. So in practice, what I do is people will come in, they have a number of suspicious toxins they have been exposed to, whether it's microbial, chemical, metal. And what you can use to identify what they're toxic to is something called evaluative kinesiology. Mm-hmm. So I've taken the frequencies of toxins, I've reversed their polarity and created a reverse remedy frequency that I've digitized in bottles. And when you put these bottles of these reverse frequency next to the body and you test them, they'll test strong for it. It means they need it.
Is this using muscle testing?
Muscle testing, correct.
Okay, great.
Once you've identified all of them, what's cool is you can digitize all these reverse frequencies they need in a bottle, and then you can drive it in through something called scalar energy. There's two different forms of energy in this world. There's electromagnetic energy, which is a transverse wave, and then there's scalar energy. Scalar energy is more of a vortex or an implosion. And that kind of waveform is a carrier wave, and it's harmonious to the body. So the Egyptians, you go inside some of those pyramids in Egypt and you look up, some of those pyramids don't have any evidence of any soot from smoke. Well, if they didn't burn fire to see and they didn't have windows, how in the world did they see inside the pyramids? They now think they had their own lighting sources using scalar energy, because you look at some of the murals in Egypt and they're holding what looks like light bulbs. Nikola Tesla, he used scalar energy as well. He called them non-Hertzian waves. He developed free power for the whole world using this type of energy. Unfortunately, got lost. But with this waveform, it can penetrate through glass, plastic, liquid, the human body, you name it, and it's harmonious. So you can drive in these reverse frequencies into the system. And when you do that, destructive interference occurs on these for the frequencies of these toxins in our body. Mm-hmm. And that will take off their charge so that the body can properly eliminate them. So if it's a microbial toxin, there was a scientist back in the day named Royal Rife.
Yeah.
He found at certain frequencies, viruses and bacteria die off. This could work like that. Or, again, E. coli bacteria they found can communicate via AM/FM radio waves. That's the only one they've studied in detail, but I believe every virus or bacteria or mold and fungus has that capability. So by putting in that reverse frequency, it could also jam their communication signaling, which will weaken them so they can't replicate. That way your body's immune system can take care of it. Third potential thing that this could do is this could bust the biofilm. These viruses, bacteria, they surround themselves with a shield, which protects them from the immune system and blocks it out. This could also be a biofilm buster, which will expose them and weaken them. That way the immune system can take care of the rest. Now, we talked about the allergens being sticky because of their hydrogen bonding. Hydrogen bonding is a frequency. So when you put the reverse frequency under these allergens, it takes away their stickiness. That way the body can better eliminate them. That's why when people get allergies, these pollens get stuck in our sinus. And because they're sticky, it's your body's reaction to the stickiness to trying to get it out, whether it's nasal congestion, fullness in the ears, eyes watering. That's the body's adaptation. Mm-hmm. So taking away that stickiness better allows the body to be able to eliminate those allergens.
Interesting.
Now, for the chemical, metal, airborne toxins, again, those act one of two ways. Some of them act like a magnet. By putting in the reverse frequency, you for ones that stick like a magnet, you actually take away its magnetism, and that way it can actually not stick to the cell wall.
But you're applying this to the body, not to the air.
You're applying this to the body.
So when you take it in your body, then you allow the body to then affect the toxin or the pathogen?
Well, I'm going to talk about more in a second because we've had to adapt in this day and age. I drive in these reverse frequencies through scalar energy.
Right.
But I also found a way I'll talk about in a second, a combination of drops you can use that allows these reverse frequencies to get inside your cell. So there's multiple ways you can address toxins, and I'll talk about why in a second. So, and then again, for the other ones like mercury stays inside the cell, and that's where it's more toxic because it repels because of its charge. By putting in a reverse frequency, you take away its charge. That way it will no longer repel. That way it can actually leave your cell. So after you use this type of method, you need to usually take some sort of binder.
Okay.
And a binder will bind to these toxins that are leaving your system and fully eliminate them. That way your body doesn't reabsorb any of the debris. But if you don't have the reverse frequency in, you won't be able to detox it as well. Now, I've seen patients from all over the world, and this method is so unique. But I ran into some obstacles, obviously. One of them being there's so many sick people right now that you possibly can't see everyone, right? Mm-hmm. The other being when COVID, when things shut down in 2020, I had to figure out a way to adapt because people couldn't travel. So I found you can load these reverse frequencies into bottles and take them orally, and different combinations of ingredients will allow these reverse frequencies to get inside the cell. That way, if people can't come and see you, you can make something for them. That way they can use it themselves.
And so how do you know what you're dealing with the individual? Like, do you do this by testing, or, I mean, you must consult with them by telehealth, like Zoom meeting, or, Changing Life Destiny is creating a metaverse for physicians and practitioners to be able to virtually connect with their intended clients and patients. So how are you able to know what you're dealing with?
So this is the cool part. Yes, for telehealth appointments, what I have patients do, I have them send me 3 hair samples, 3 nail samples. Frequencies can be in our body, and your frequency resonates with you. So when they send me these hair and nail samples, I'm able to take these reverse frequencies, and I'm able to test and see which frequencies are electron donors for them, meaning their body needs, or which of them they don't need. And you have a suspicious list, obviously, but people have intuition. Everyone has intuition. A lot of people will tell you, my body wasn't the same after this. And when you test, sure enough, yep, they were right.
Yeah.
And this can range from like anything, microbial, chemical, metal, medications, you name it.
Sure.
But, I've had to adapt even more with what's gone on. So I had patients in Australia and Canada. And customs right now are very, very strict. Mm-hmm. So I've had these patients, I've tried to send them bottles, and guess what? They couldn't get them.
Yeah, especially Canada's not good. I live there, but Australia's like airtight, man.
Exactly.
It's a tough place to get anything
and I couldn't get into some of my bottles to some of these people. So I thought, okay, I need to be able to get people these reverse frequencies, but I can't get them the bottle. What am I going to do? So what I did is I created an app. But I needed to do it just right because there's a lot of phones that have not only radiation, but also something called vertical negative green. So radiation's toxic, but there's a type of energy called vertical negative green. It's basically bad electrical energy. Mm-hmm. And you got to be highly specialized to test it. You can learn about these principles through something called biogeometry.
Okay.
But I had to find a way for people to be able to load reverse frequencies on their own through a phone. So what I was able to do was I took my phone and I put something called a safe sleeve over it.
Yep.
That blocks radiation. And then I used this biogeometry, something called a car biogeometry pendant. And what it does is it blocks vertical negative green. And using that, people can get whatever ingredients, these ingredients. I like to use water, iodine, and fulvic, and colloidal silver. They can take these ingredients, they can put the bottle on the phone, and you can directly load these reverse frequencies in without having to rely on me or anyone else to send them a bottle.
Wow. And so does this happen through an app or?
It happens through an app. So the app is called Healing Playbook.
Uh-huh.
And
great name.
Yes, thank you.
Great name.
And that's one of the reasons too, is I realize there's only one of me in the world, but I want to teach people. You can fish for someone or teach someone how to fish. I want to teach people how to fish. They don't have to depend on me or anyone else. So I also wrote a book on Amazon called Healing Playbook that can teach people how to use these type of technologies. But what's amazing is now you can load reverse frequencies on bottles, and you can block out radiation, vertical negative green, and you can get the reverse frequency into the system.
That is fantastic.
Yeah.
And so what are the results you've observed? And so I have two questions. One is if you could share a couple of clinical examples where you've seen this work really well, which I'm sure you have loads, but maybe pick one or two. And the second one is, are you marrying this with any of the other technologies that we're seeing here at Changing Life Destiny?
So some of these principles, again, I learned from Dr. Jerry Tennant, who spoke here this weekend. I first learned about some of these concepts through him. There are so many great technologies here, though. I've loved being here because I'm able to coordinate with various people. I'd love to merge some of these technologies more. But
I mean, that's the power of an event like this. Have you been by the Galila Quantum booth? I feel like that's something that would really resonate for you.
Absolutely. I'll need to go by. I think I saw him last night, but I'll definitely go by and talk
anyway,
to him.
So share with us a couple of clinical examples.
I've had patients.
Maybe just one.
Yes, yeah. I've had patients with one of my patients had a chronic strep that was a positive test for years, and they tried everything, and it would never go away. We do this testing. We run in the reverse frequency on them. And then they contact me later and they tell me, you know what, my positive strep test is no longer there. It was there for years. I see that. I see this. You know, if something works when it works on kids. So I've had kids who've had vaccine injury. I run the reverse frequency on them in the vaccine, and they get sometimes some detox symptoms, but then their parents tell me they're back to where they were before.
So I have a question for you on that. When that happens, there are definitely, vaccines, some vaccines can help to help the body protect itself, really, because it's about engaging the immune system. Does it negate the vaccine itself, or does it just help to mitigate and negate the negative effects of the vaccine on the individual?
It helps to negate the negative effects of the vaccine.
Okay, so then let's say, and I'm not speaking for or against vaccines here.
Right.
I'm gonna remain agnostic on this one. But so then let's say a child was vaccinated against, I don't know, whatever, a whooping cough or whatever the case may be. Does that mean that they basically, I'm wondering if this can work in a couple of different ways. Can it possibly charge the immune system to itself be able to deal with the whooping cough? Thereby, you don't need the vaccine as much, maybe. Or does it allow the vaccine to engage the immune system so that it can recognize the whooping cough should it ever come into play and the body can deal with it better? But it just really deals with the negative effect of the vaccine.
It just deals with the negative effect of the vaccine. And from what I've seen, like when people first have the vaccine, that's the time where it does what they meant for it to do.
Yeah.
And then after, that's what a lot of people are worried about. Am I going to have immunity against this or
fallout.
that?
Yeah.
But you can get any vaccine out of the system. But when they initially have it, that's what the vaccine does, what it's supposed to do according to
train
them.
the immune system. Yeah.
Yep.
Okay. So this is fascinating. Can you please maybe share with people where they can find you and learn more, get your book, think about your app?
Yep. Yes. So you can follow us on Instagram. My family and I have a family blog. It's called Healing Playbook. And then again, if you're interested in the app, it's on the Playbook app. It's called Healing Playbook. And then my book is on Amazon called Healing Playbook, Non-Invasive Detox Secrets to Save Time, Money, and Resources. And my next book coming out will actually be on intimacy. It'll coming out soon. So there's some biohacks for intimacy. You can use frequency to help the nerves and these energy systems too.
Beautiful. All right. So it's Dr. Chase Faldmo.
You're good.
And Healing Playbook is the way to get access to all your wisdom. Thank you so much for being here today.
Thank you for having me.